What's going on, everybody? Anthony Cervino here with the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel with my top players to buy, sell, and hold in Dynasty Week 16. We're going to start with Deebo Samuel, and I know what you're saying. Why do we want to buy Deebo Samuel? Well, number one, if you're a contender and you're looking ahead to next season, hey, I have a pretty good team. I need a wide receiver. I need some depth. I need a flex. Deebo Samuel should be on your radar. Yes, he will be entering his age 29 season. And I get, you watch Deebo Samuel this year, he has not lived up to the hype. But Deebo has been banged up this year compared to last year when he was outstanding. There's also no CMC, and Deebo is at his best with a healthy CMC. They both do a lot of the same things. When the enemy defense is focused on CMC, Deebo Samuel is a lot more effective and efficient. There's a good chance that Deebo Samuel will not be back with the 49ers next year. They have a loaded roster. As we know, Jawan Jennings is playing his best football. They drafted Pearsall. They re-signed Aiyuk. There's only so many players to go around and one football to go around. Deebo Samuel, most likely the odd man out. And if he lands in the right system, with the right creative offensive mind, Deebo Samuel, I think, could really return value for fantasy teams and dynasty teams next year. Now, it's not going to cost a lot to get Deebo Samuel. You could potentially flip Jonathan Brooks, and I get it. Jonathan Brooks, Anthony, he's going to be a year two running back. Well, guess what? Jonathan Brooks just injured his lower body again. And who knows the longevity of Jonathan Brooks, and who knows the role of Jonathan Brooks on a Panthers team that just re-signed Chuba Hubbard. I get it might be crazy. But if you're a win-now team, you have Jonathan Brooks. I think Deebo Samuel could potentially help you to a championship more so than Jonathan Brooks next year. You can flip the aforementioned Ricky Pearsall, who's probably number 3 in San Francisco, even if Deebo leaves, or Ramondre Stevenson. I get it. These are younger players, and Deebo's probably on a back nine of his career. But if Deebo is healthy, we know he's one of the more productive fantasy wide receivers on the market. I am buying into Deebo Samuel for 2025. Next up, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is having a down year for A.J. Brown. And why is he having a down year? It's because of how outstanding Saquon Barkley is and how outstanding Jalen Hurts is, as the tush push isn't really skipping a beat. AJ had a little bit of an early injury. He had some ups and downs when it comes to fantasy production and usage. And this past week against Pittsburgh, 25 PPR points, 11 targets, 8 for 110 and 1. That's not the version of A.J. Brown we're going to get week in and week out. This Eagles team, they want to run the football, and they want to win by running the football, and they have a good enough defense to where they can grind clock. But this is a move for next season. This is a move for contending teams who need a wide receivers, like we talked about Deebo Samuel, to go buy A.J. Brown because he is going to be entering his age 28 season, and because he's having a down year, his market value is pretty low. You can probably flip guys like JSN, Drake London, or Garrett Wilson for A.J. Brown. And I get these are younger assets, but I think we have more overall stability with A.J. Brown than a Drake London. And Drake London's having a nice year with Kirk Cousins. What version of Kirk Cousins are we going to get next year when he's another year older? What if they move off of Cousins and it's Michael Penix? And we don't even know what that guy is. I like Penix, but at least we know what A.J. Brown can give us in this Philadelphia offense. And let's not forget, what if Saquon Barkley goes down? We know he has an injury history, and he's not that young either. Then all of a sudden, A.J. Brown is the focal point of this Philly offense again. I want to get my hands on A.J. Brown because we're probably never going to get him this cheap again. And if we can moving forward, it's probably because he's not going to give us that elite value. But right now, we know A.J. Brown, despite the off year, still can bring elite production when he's the guy. Let's go to my next player I'm buying, and that's Noah Gray. Noah Gray is probably the heir apparent to Travis Kelce. And this year, we are seeing usage from Noah Gray. He's played 61% of the snaps this season, while Travis Kelce played 84%. And we are starting to see some target volume in the direction of Noah Gray. Since week 11, he's had at least 5 targets in every game but one. And in the one, he had 4 targets against Carolina where he scored 2 touchdowns. In fact, he scored 5 total touchdowns since week 11, which is a 5-game time period, and had at least 4 receptions in every game but one. Noah Gray is a good tight end. And even, yes, Travis Kelce is going to be back next year. We know. What's going to happen with wide receiver? Well, we know Rashee Rice is going to be back. We don't know about Hopkins. We don't know about Hollywood Brown. We are seeing success with Noah Gray and Travis Kelce on the field. And with the enemy defense trying to take away guys like Rashee Rice when he's healthy and these other receivers and Travis Kelce, Noah Gray's running open. And Noah Gray, being the number 2 tight end, has given us at least 9.8 PPR points since week 11 in all but one game. If you're a dynasty manager, and I wouldn't do this if I'm a contender, but if I'm a rebuilding team or a team that I think I'm a year or 2 away, go get Noah Gray. Travis Kelce could be in his final season next year. Maybe he retires this year if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. We don't know. But what we do know is that Noah Gray can play. He has a rapport and the trust from Patrick Mahomes. And whether it's this year or next year, there's a really good chance Noah Gray is a featured tight end in this offense. Remember, if you like videos like this, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the alert icon so you can be notified anytime we are live to answer your questions or drop content just like this. If you have dynasty questions, redraft questions, trade questions, lineup questions, ask them in the comment section below. We will get back to you as soon as we can. Now let's go to the players we are selling. And the first player we are selling is DK Metcalf. Folks, if you've been paying attention, it has been the JSN show in Seattle. And I get it. DK Metcalf been playing a little bit hurt. DK Metcalf isn't getting the volume. But what if, because I said this all off season long, what if this is the year where JSN takes over or at least catches up to DK Metcalf as the wide receiver 1 or at least 1A, 1B? Remember, JSN is a more complete wide receiver out of the 2, and DK Metcalf's really good, but we've been chasing DK Metcalf's ceiling for a few years now, and he has not come close. Right now, there are people out there who still see the DK Metcalf name value. They don't want to move off of him. They still love DK Metcalf, and they should. However, this is the time to flip DK Metcalf because you can still get outstanding value for DK Metcalf. You can flip DK Metcalf for guys like Josh Jacobs, who we know is outstanding in Green Bay. Davante Smith, if you want a little bit more, I don't want to say stability, but we know what he is in the offense. We know what the quarterback is, and he's still being used even though he's number 3 option. Chase Brown, if you want the potential of a game-changing or a dynasty team-changing running back in Chase Brown, or you can even flip DK Metcalf. You could still get a future first or potentially even a late 2025 first. So, yes, I am absolutely selling DK Metcalf. The next player we are selling is Davante Adams, folks. And Davante Adams, he looks like a superstar wide receiver again. He looks like an elite wide receiver. But yes, Davante Adams is still an aging wide receiver. How many years of this production does he have left? He's 31. He's going to be 32 next year. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be with Aaron Rodgers. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers doesn't stay with the Jets, where he's going to go, and if that team's going to want to sign Davante Adams. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to Davante Adams. But we do know that what we've seen from Davante and Aaron Rodgers is something special. They rekindled that fire. We just don't know if that's going to continue into the future. The good thing is, because Davante Adams right now is firing on all cylinders and he looks like a 27-year-old again, you might be able to get some value for Davante Adams. maybe you can flip Davante Adams for a younger player who's ascending. And maybe a few weeks ago, you wouldn't have been able to do that. Is there a world where a contending team who's enamored by this run of Davante Adams, is there a world where maybe they're, hey, I'm sick of Jalen Waddle. I'm sick of that instability. Maybe they're afraid that Tyreek Hill, maybe he's falling off. They're afraid of that Miami offense. Maybe they'll do an even swap with Tyreek Hill. I think that's crazy, but I don't think it's out of the question. Maybe there's somebody with Jonathan Taylor who's having a down year because of the offensive line injuries. Maybe they're willing to flip somebody like Jonathan Taylor for Davante Adams. I get it. It's crazy to think that Davante at his age can get a significant return, but I think there's a world where it can happen. We just talked about guys like Deebo earlier. Maybe a Deebo for Adams flip. Again, it sounds crazy, but Davante is on this tear right now, and this industry, this community is dominated by recency bias. I would sell Davante Adams and sell him to the highest bidder. Here's two players we are holding. Number one is Brandon Aiyuk. Just talked about Deebo at the top of the video. Deebo's probably on his way out. They paid Brandon Aiyuk. I get he didn't look that great earlier this year, but this has been an off year for the 49ers overall. Brandon Aiyuk's going to be the wide receiver one in this offense. I get Jennings going to be there. Pearsall is going to be there. But they gave Aiyuk wide receiver one money. We know 2 years removed, Aiyuk was having an outstanding career year that even got him paid. He has the familiarity and the rapport with Brock Purdy. And let's face it, this 49ers team overall, it's going to bounce back next year. This was just an off year when it comes to injuries. Go buy back into Brandon Aiyuk. If I'm a Brandon Aiyuk manager, I'm not moving off of him. I'm also not going to buy him because unless I could buy Brandon Aiyuk at a significant value. And if you try to sell him, you're not going to get what he's worth. So he's one of those players. It's just better off. Hold on to Brandon Aiyuk. And the next player we are going to hold is Breece Hall. Breece Hall is another player in this Jets turmoil. And from a game-to-game basis, Breece Hall did not live up to expectations. But he is still an immense talent. And I get that the Jets have some talent in Braylon Allen and Davis behind Breece Hall. But when Breece Hall is healthy and when the new year resets into 2025, Breece Hall will be the guy. And I do expect this Jets team to try to continue to retool the offensive line. They still have talent all over the place on offense. And whether it's they run it back with Aaron Rodgers, or they have a high enough draft pick to go get a future franchise quarterback. There's so much around Breece Hall where he could realistically pop as the overall RB1 or RB2 in any one of these seasons. I am not selling Breece Hall for anything, and I think the price when it comes to buying Breece Hall is still going to be a little bit high. Hold on to Breece Hall and enjoy the run because we've seen it a few times this year. Breece Hall's ceiling is one of the highest of any player in fantasy football.